The Windsor-Essex Children's Aid Society is excited to launch an innovative podcast titled Inspiring Community. The Society is very aware of the diverse, multifaceted elements of our community that come together to support children, youth, and families as they celebrate success and rise to overcome significant financial, social, and mental health challenges. Hosts Mike Clark, Manager of Public Relations and Fund Development, and Tina Allen, Manager of Community Outreach, will be reaching out to many of the Society's community partners and resource organizations to provide insight and helpful suggestions to help overcome these obstacles. The goal will be to provide a practical toolkit for listeners on topics such as managing parenting issues, financial strains, self-care, strengthening relationships, and so much more. The hope is that by talking with community experts, listeners feel more connected within a community of support. Join us as we look at new ways to reach for a better tomorrow. In this episode, we speak with June Muir, CEO of UHC-Hub of Opportunities.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Inspiring Community. Today, we are so happy to have with us June Muir, who is the CEO of the UHC-Hub of Opportunities, formerly the Unemployed Help Center. June, I think everybody knows you in this community. You've done so much great work, but can you share with us a little bit about yourself and perhaps how you became involved with the UHC?
Absolutely. So in 2000, I was hired. I was hired to the assistant of the director at that time, and one of the roles that I did was supervise the food bank. And that was one of my favorite jobs, as I was so passionate about helping people and making sure they had food. I grew up in a low-income neighborhood, and I saw firsthand many of my friends who were food insecure. So that program has always been dear and near to my heart. And then I, approximately 12 years ago, became the CEO of the UHC-Hub of Opportunities.
Right, and this is such a fascinating facility. We're here today at June's office and at the UHC, and perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about what goes on here.
Yes, a lot goes on here. So we were established in 1977. We started with employment programs and then a food bank, and from then we grew, and we have 26 programs and services all under one roof. So we like to say we're one-stop shop. And most people come to us because they want to access our food bank or our human basic needs service. These programs are not funded, but once they come and get food, we talk about our other funded programs. So there's employment programs, newcomer programs, educational programs, being able to upgrade their math skills, English skills. So we have it all here, all under one roof. We break down that social isolation so people all gather together. And it really makes a difference, because when you're food insecure, you're thinking about feeding your family. You're not thinking about employment. But once we give that food out and they can see what else we offer here, they feel at home and they tap into our services.
Mm-hmm. We're so fortunate to have a resource like this in our community.
Absolutely.
Well, we're just really glad that we're able to keep up with the demand for service. The only thing we don't have is housing, but we partner with Housing Information Services and we make those referrals. But we're very proud of the fact that someone can walk in our door, get food. We have a Keep the Heat program. They can get assistance with their utilities, their gas bills, and get a job. We've had that happen in one day. Food, hydro, help with their, utility bills, and then get a job.
Wow, that's fantastic. June, back in November, Statistics Canada released a labor force survey showing that 41% of Windsor residents are saying they are having a difficult time making ends meet. As you were just talking about, in all of the programs that you provide, obviously this is having an impact on UHC. But can you talk more about how there is an increase in the utilization of your services?
Yes. So at the UHC, our food bank, pre-pandemic, we served 300 people a week. Now we're serving 1,500.
Wow.
I think that tells the story. And food inflation is higher than inflation. So if you're working and earning minimum wage and you're trying to pay rent, pay your utilities, and then buy food, something's going to give. And it normally is food. And so that's why people are utilizing a food bank. You would never stand in line and utilize a food bank unless you had to. And I think, that people that really might not understand that, we'd invite them to come and see our lineup and come for a tour because it's real. Mm-hmm. And that's what we really want to make sure people understand. We want to educate them and have them understand, why people are utilizing a food bank.
For us, certainly, at the Children's Aid Society, we are seeing the same experiences with our families. For many of them that we support, they have those fixed costs of housing, even transportation, utilities. And you're right, it often shakes down into those basic needs and food insecurity. And we are seeing that with our organization, that we are giving out more food vouchers, food cards, and so on. We are shifting campaigns to try to raise more in-kind donations of diapers and formula and so on. So you spoke a bit more about why families are struggling. Can you dig a little bit deeper into that? What is really causing all of this in our community?
So food inflation, as I spoke about earlier, is higher than inflation. Mm-hmm. And when someone has to pay rent, and I can talk about the Windsor-Essex Health Unit, they did a 2023 real cost of eating report. And, a family of 4, they said approximately $1,137 a month to eat. And I would say that's on the lower end because I know to buy healthy, nutritional food is very, very costly. So it's not as costly to eat junk, but then again, you're not healthy, right? And what it does is it just puts more stress on our system because we get all these people that aren't as healthy because they're not eating healthy food. So once again, food is a basic human need. And what you just explained to me, it's devastating to hear that because we live in Canada. Everybody should have the right to food. It's a human basic need, as well as housing. So we know people are struggling. We know ourselves when we go into a grocery store what we're putting out and what we're paying for food. So government needs to hear what we're saying. We are working with Feed Ontario, Food Banks Canada. They advocate for policy change. And the answer is not to keep giving out food. It's to look at a way we can resolve these issues. Because we know that we can't keep going on like this. And we know your clients can't keep going on like this. So we need to get, policy change, resolutions, and get down to the bottom and the root causes of why people are hungry or why they're struggling. We need to get to those root causes.
For sure.
Yeah, you had mentioned, June, that phenomenal statistics, actually, how the food bank usage has increased across the entire region of Windsor-Essex. And this includes many new users, of course. We obviously need to keep food banks running and responsive to the immediate needs of residents, but what do you feel would be the long-term solution?
So I want to just add one more stat before I answer your question, because I think it's really important to add this. So from April 1st, 2022 until March 31st, 2023, in Windsor and Essex County, we have seen a 64% increase in the number of people who have never accessed a food bank before. And we know these numbers will continue to rise year after year. So they've never used a food bank. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we're an affiliate of Food Banks Canada, and we are a member of Feed Ontario, who continues to advocate for solutions. Food banks don't want to be there weekly. We want to, be there to help people when they need us for an emergency situation only. And so we look at and we support the policy changes. So their recommendations are, to look at social assistance rates and reduce clawbacks, invest in building and maintaining affordable housing. That is a big, big issue, right? A lot of our clients are homeless or they're couch surfing. Affordable housing is a real big issue. And precarious work. We have many families that, are in precarious jobs, so they're working and then all of a sudden they're not working. That's no way to plan a future. You can't live on not knowing when I'm working, when I'm not working, and how am I going to sustain and pay rent, purchase a home, do more for my family, right? And then, of course, reform the employment insurance and improve it. So, many people can access employment insurance, but there's so many rules around it. Maybe they could continue to stay involved in training and collect EI at the same time. There's a lot of rules around that. So these are the things that we're supporting, Feed Ontario and Food Banks Canada, and we advocate ourselves to our MPs and our MP. We want to make sure that they understand what is needed to create change, to get to the root causes, because quite frankly, food banks are feeling overwhelmed. We can't keep up, and it affects us when people come to us and we have to turn them away or say we're out of a product. But the UHC is the hub for 15 food banks located throughout Windsor and Essex County. So we get food in and we share it. And so we're all on a database together. So if someone comes to us and we can't give them the milk or the eggs, we can send them to another food bank and put it in notes. So we've got a great system going. We work together, and so we know what families are helped and what family gets what, and we try and make sure that no one goes without. But that's impossible. We went from handing out food once a week to twice a month. So that's huge. When you are earning minimum wage and we have a 64% increase in first-time users that never used a food bank before, trying to keep up with demand has been very, very difficult. And we're just doing our best.
Yeah, and I think what you touched on is sometimes it's one step ahead and two steps back. I'm looking at the fact that some of the major grocery retailers now are lifting their restrictions that they had during COVID of no price increases. So, of course, there's going to be an increase in food once again. And I guess the bottom line is there an overall solution, and how do people get ahead?
Well, they're not going to unless there's change. And that's why we'll continue to reach out to our MP and our MPPs. I can tell you that we work with Andrew Dowie, MP, and we work with Ira Kurzmischuk, MP, and, they're very willing and listening. But we really hope for change, policy change down the road, right? If you live on a fixed income, there's no way in the future that you're going to be able to sustain yourself. We know that. We see that, right? And I know you see it. So all we can do is continue to advocate, be that voice for change, and change has to happen, or we're going to see people skipping a meal. They do now. They skip meals. We see children go to school without lunches. So all as we can do is continue to advocate and be their voice and be there for them.
Let's talk a bit more about advocacy. UHC, along with many other food banks, are part of the Windsor-Essex County Food Bank Association. And June, you are the president of this association. What is that collective messaging you are sharing with funders and government about what needs to happen to address this issue? And you talked about meeting with MPPs and MPs and that advocacy. What does that look like? What is that messaging?
So, once again, I continue to talk about increasing social assistance rates and reducing clawbacks. Anyone on a fixed income really is going to have a hard time moving forward. So we advocate about, people that are on ODSP, making sure they're not clawed back, looking at their rates, because as inflation increases, we want to see those rates increase. So we really support the good work that Feed Ontario and Food Banks Canada is doing, and we have a shared belief that no one in Canada should go hungry. We also keep up and chat about, affordable housing, and I know that, their affordable housing is being looked at. I do recognize that, but in the meantime, what do people do until that housing is built? So looking at, should there maybe perhaps be some kind of rent rebate? So those are discussions that I want to have in the future, because until affordable housing becomes a reality, what do people do in the meantime? So I think that's something we all can advocate and work together on. And I also think bringing different groups together, talking with you today is very helpful, and that perhaps we should look at in our community who could come together to advocate and work together to make change. And precarious work, we're here. We want people to know, absolutely tap into our resources, UHC.ca, because we can find people full-time jobs. And it's about educating people so that they know there are full-time jobs out there. There are still good paying jobs, and to make sure that you're tapping into those resources. Also talking about, like I said, EI, and just coming together, collaborating to meet with a group in Windsor to go to our MPPs to make sure that we drive home what needs to happen to help people not live in poverty.
June, when people think about food insecurity and solutions in our community, often they think about food banks by themselves and that's the only solution. You have so many programs here that are food security based. Can you talk a bit more about those?
Yes, so we have a community kitchen. And how that got started was we were rescuing produce, and we needed to bring it back and have a space where we could wash it, make soups, sauces. So I have a fantastic board, and I went to our board and said, you know what? Can we raise the money to build a state-of-the-art community kitchen? We had no idea who was going to do the work, though. So we raised the money, we built that beautiful kitchen you saw, and we became partners with the Essex County District School Board. We've been deemed an off-site campus. The students gain a credit towards their diploma. They're the hands that do our work. And we partnered with Victorian Order of Nurses, their Meals on Wheels program, so that we can make an affordable meal for those seniors. A lot of those seniors, it's the only meal they get throughout the day. They break it up. They maybe take the soup and the bun and have it for lunch, and then put the dinner away for supper. And also the drivers that deliver the meals. Sometimes it's the only person they see each and every day. And that's who they look forward to seeing. And it's kind of a checkup at the same time, because if they're not there to get their meal, we're reaching out to family members. VON is reaching out. So it's a wonderful program, and the students feel like they're giving back. And then we also make soup. We made 1 million servings that we got out throughout Windsor-Essex County one year, and then up the highway, we shared it. We live in an area where we have the largest number of greenhouse growers in North America. So we have our Plentiful Harvest Food Rescue Program since 2012, the inception of 2012 of that program. We have rescued 30 million pounds. So think of a
Incredible.
pound of butter. Think of a pound of butter, how much food that is. And it's nutritional food, and we can do so much with it. And so other areas throughout Ontario don't have the option we have. So they'll come and get produce with their truck and bring us cereal or other foods that we might not get donated. So we are able to, at our Leamington Regional Food Hub, swap these foods. The produce goes there. We swap foods with other food banks. And that's how we're able to keep food on our shelves along with our donors in Windsor and Essex County. But that's a great program. And I'm so glad that we have our kitchen. So you're right. We can give out food. We can give out soup. We can give out produce. And we do so much more here when it comes to food.
Great, thank you.
I think all of us sitting around here can just imagine how deflating it would be for someone who is not able to provide food for themselves or for their family specifically. So how should they go about seeking that support and those resources?
Well, first of all, I want to let people know they can be comfortable, feel comfortable accessing a food bank. We want them to access it with dignity. And so here, and as well as the other 15 food banks, we make it a very comfortable atmosphere. And if they want to, learn more about us, they can, go on UHC.ca and they can find information that would tell them how to access the food bank. They basically just have to show up. We did have a grocery store model, and it was good to see people come in and shop and make a food choice of their own. But unfortunately, because of the demand, 1,500 per week here at our center alone, we're not able to conduct that any longer. We have to give them a hamper. But when we say a hamper, it's full of great food. It's not just a hamper. It's got milk, eggs, meat. It's got all the things that you would want to feed your family. It's a nutritional hamper. They can take as much produce as they want. So we want everybody to know that you can call 519-944-4900 to find out more information. You can just show up. The first time you access the food bank, you would be asked a few questions. We don't want people to feel intimidated. It's just so that we can keep stats so we know how much food we need and we can share that, right? And if we're advocating on behalf of people that need to utilize the food bank, there is some information that we're going to have to ask. It is confidential. It goes nowhere. We just obviously want to collect that information to be able to prove to our MPs and our MPPs that the need is there. So it's just maybe the first time you come, but our food bank staff are so welcoming. Our whole organization is so welcoming, and we're here to help. And we see firsthand what people need, and then we can help them and also share our other programs and services that we offer so they know that they can get help beyond the food bank. Like I said, it's just maybe a piece of identification at first that we might need to see just to collect, and then you can come back. We're unfortunately not able to serve more than twice a month. If it's unique circumstances, then we will help you. We won't turn you away.
Now, you talked about the role of government and connecting with local MPs, and also about the major supporters that come to the table with assisting with such a fabulous program and a facility such as this. But what can an individual citizen do? As we all know, Windsor-Essex is a very, very caring community. And I can only imagine people listening to this podcast or people that have heard about UHC maybe say to themselves, how can I make a difference in eradicating hunger and the stigma associated with it?
So learn and understand food insecurity. And you can do that by coming here for a tour. You can go on our website. And I always like people to come for tours. They can see firsthand the lineup, number one. look at what we're doing and know that we go beyond the table, that we give food out, but once they're comfortable, we introduce them to all of our other programs and services, because it's not just about giving them food, it's about helping them understand what's available. And if you can volunteer, we're always looking for volunteers. And then we had a campaign running, and I keep, sharing with people that, if you have $5 in that, cup in your car in the morning that you stop and buy a coffee, all you have to do is donate, and you can donate on our website. Hit that donate button. $5 goes a long way. Or drop food off. And if you have never thought about donating or thought about food insecurity, to please take the time and learn about it, because many people say, I didn't really realize there were people that are hungry, or what you talked about earlier about your own clients, that there are needs that are not met. And some people just really don't have that information or knowledge about what is going on in our community. So I invite you to learn and come and meet with us. And my door is always open. I love meeting with people. I love sharing what's going on. And if I can do that, and if you can support us, we absolutely want you to give us a call.
Fantastic. And you talked about volunteers, and we know that volunteers are vital to many of our organizations' operation, and often the unsung heroes. How can they volunteer here?
So we have a Coats for Kids program. You can volunteer during that time. You can volunteer in our food bank. You can make the hampers. It takes a lot of people to create 1,500 hampers per week. And we have other programs and services. We have our upgrading. If you're a retired school teacher and you want to get involved and help others learn math, I would encourage you to go on our website once again, and we have those volunteer opportunities listed, or you can call us. Our volunteer coordinator is Heidi, and all you have to do is ask for her at 519-944-4900. And I just want to give you a shout out, because during the pandemic, you had drivers that dropped off our food hampers. And without your collaboration and your drivers and your support, we wouldn't have made it through the pandemic. It was unbelievable how we came together during the pandemic, and your staff volunteered. That was incredible. I don't think people know in our community that your staff volunteered, dropped hampers off, that there was no way people could have gotten or would have had food to eat. It was a very serious situation, and your staff drove those hampers around town and out to the county. That meant so much to us.
Yeah, we were very proud to partner with you on that. It was our volunteers, not our staff.
Okay.
But COVID effectively shut down our programs at the Children's Aid Society. And so we had a number of volunteers that still wanted to help. And so it was great that we could come together and redeploy our resources, our volunteers, to be able to support that. And that went on for months and months and months. And then as our program started back up, we had to shift gears. But yes, again, to Mike's point earlier, it's really, we are a community that does come together, and we just have to ask. And that's all we have to do.
Well, that saved us. And we could have never delivered those meals. And it did go on and on and on. Mm-hmm. So I just want to give your volunteers a big shout out.
Yeah, thank you. So we've heard so much about UHC today and all the programs that you provide. We know this magic doesn't happen by itself. So what fundraising do you have to do to make all of this happen here at UHC?
So we do a lot of fundraising, but we have two main events, our golf tournament and our Possibility Luncheon. And you will be able to find that information on our website or call our communication manager, Mackenzie. But she keeps the community informed. So if you go on our website, our Facebook page, you will always find what we're doing, what's happening. And thank you for asking that question, because that's really what does keep our human basic need programs going. So thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, June. This has been just a whole wealth of information. I think I think it educates all of us on knowing how our community really needs to come together to meet the basic needs of our fellow citizens. And UHC, your staff, your volunteers are champions and advocates of that. So again, I want to thank you for that. And to our listeners, this has been Inspiring Community, and we look forward to our next episode. So tune in. Thank you.
To connect with UHC, you can find them on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X, and of course through their website, uhc.ca. All of this information will be in the show notes, and you can find the podcast Inspiring Community, a production of the Windsor-Essex Children's Aid Society, on Podbeam, Apple Podcast, and Spotify.